All right.
Everybody came in, they took a number like the deli, and Chris got the first number.
Okay.
I'm very simple. All I need is your signatures on an A&R plan
Wanted to tell them.
to cut off that little triangle I've mentioned in other meetings for Don Wheeler's granddaughter, I think, lives up there now.
Yeah, Felicia
Alicia, married to Mr. Lowe.
Wheeler Low.
Yeah. That's all I promised I'd do that for Donnie before he passed away, if I hold us all together. And that's it. Other than that, it's the same plan you've seen numerous times.
Can you spread them out?
Sure.
Check them out, good copy.
Yeah, I don't need that fancy stuff. I might.
Might make it dirty.
Okay.
Soon news, soon more. huh? How many acres are left? How many acres are left? But that's it,
All right.
26, after this
Right,
taken away.
that's the 1/3 that I owe the town of the original parcel, to use your bylaw for senior housing. I have to set 1/3 of the land aside for open space. And this parcel, D, I'm also giving to you for open space, but as it is not required as part of the permit process, I can ask for a tax shelter on whatever value I can get an appraiser to put on it and submit to the IRS as a gift, or at least the development rights thereof. But this I cannot, because it's part of the permit process, and I can't double dip, so to speak.
So when you chop this off, do you still have a third?
Yes.
Any questions for Chris?
So this benefits them in that they clean up a setback or?
Yeah. Their house is tucked in very close, and it just makes it a lot more livable for them.
Good. I move that we approve a plan dated July 5th,
Who's taking minutes?
2019.
Did you volunteer to take minutes? Put right paper. Give them in a piece of paper.
Huh? I'll do it.
You're gonna do it? You gotta volunteer, right? You can teach you to it.
I have paper for
I
you.
got paper.
Right neatly, because we're posting.
Drawn by Deshawn and Dillis on behalf of Ken Chris Realty Trust. Plan book 872, plan 104, map, Berlin Town Assessors map 15, parcel 27 and 27.1.
Here comes the regular.
Showing the creation of lot
He started
A
it. Who started it?
to be conveyed to an abutter. Approval under the subdivision control are not required.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that? Just
Motion.
Do I hear a second? Okay. You were on for the discussion, so we'll just three to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
3-0. Okay. Kind of need somebody.
He's writing and taking and doing nothing.
I'll give you this. Thank you. And you'll be able to read. I'm taking them.
We'll bring it back to you. Three pages of development. Three pages of development.
Just doing well.
Two in a bill? Oh. Okay. I got all carried away. I think we're right, it's just, I guess, one, we keep one, we'll leave another one.
Do you have a Form A and a check? A Form A and a check?
Yeah. Four? Yeah.
CD is one way. I think I need for filing.
Good point. Did you fill out a Form A and a check and pay your fee?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we get the Form A. You bring your checkbook with you?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's
I
set.
know better than to come to a meeting, for God's sake, not a checkbook.
Yeah.
Especially this board.
That's not it. Got a Form A here someplace. No, that's not Form A. Maybe it should be. It must be starting from the wrong direction. How about that, sir? And we'll figure out that getting our money owed. This one, the wrong direction too.
Did you sign them out? Did you sign them out?
Not yet. We didn't get the money yet. Let's do that first.
It's chopping in the corner of this lot. What? So that the butter has a little more space. That's an easy way to make $5,000, huh?
Are you my lawyer or my engineer?
I hope your engineer's giving you a discount, because they even pull that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. I was kind of hurrying them to get it done, did it?
The cap.
It's right there. You got the fee schedule someplace?
Yeah.
$50 for the first lot. So I made 2 lots out of it. What is this? It's the old one. $25 features, so it's $100. Well, that's 75. $50 for the first lot. And plus 25, yeah, $75. Town of Berlin.
Is that what you needed?
$75.
Well, I didn't bring a checkbook. What? Cash.
You didn't bring a checkbook?
Well, I brought cash instead. You still work with that? No.
No.
No, I didn't need that.
I wasn't doing it.
They don't know what they're doing.
I downloaded it. Can you bring a check in tomorrow?
I certainly can. You prefer check.
Can you bring a check in tomorrow?
I'll bring them down there. What
I know
time
where
you?
he lives.
Pardon?
I know where he lives.
Yeah. What time you in tomorrow?
7 to 9.
7 to 9. Tomorrow night. Okay.
Yep.
You don't want that. Those are your copies, right?
Yep.
I got my CBF, my $100 back. And I owe $75 for tomorrow. So let's see. So I think we're at peace.
Till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. Oh, yeah. What she said. She knows what I like.
Exactly.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate your help as always.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Oh, you got a quick song and dance that you're gonna do? I told this other gentleman to be here at 8 o'clock, so you guys got a good, almost 10 minutes.
Did you ask Chris about this?
No, he's trying to, he says he's trying to get somebody to come in and redo his land. We take over the land.
That's
But he hasn't done it yet. He hasn't. He says he's held up by the lawyers.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
So Stephen, Councilor John Grander, back with the West River Road West, or maybe River Road West property. And we want to develop it into some form, and the land is zoned marijuana now, so marijuana friendly. So we want to potentially cut a piece of this for that portion, and then maybe another piece for maybe another assisted living, but we wanted to get your feedback on what you envision for this property. Because we can't do anything without your support, we all know that.
So, I mean, people have approached us in regard to cannabis, and sometimes they talk about a growing facility or, I mean, is that the angle? I mean, have you got clients that are looking at it?
We've
or-
talked to half a dozen people, and a lot of them pretty small space shots, we haven't got anyone. Literally, so we haven't got anyone, we may have somebody, but we wanted to know, get some feedback from you along with the same time, and then we'll probably come in with that, one of those people, hopefully, we want somebody with experience, with a track record, somebody that can carry the, that can do a good job,
So,
whatever we do.
I mean, when you talk cannabis and assisted living, and splitting the site, then one of the problems it seems that folks have with cannabis is water and, where do you get it, and how that relates to the total site, and then what the demand for water would be for the assisted living as well. So, I mean, have you begun to calculate out what the two, how, okay.
Well, and that would be, obviously for the cannabis, that would be more for growing.
Yeah.
I know there's been some people who have been looking for, they have growing facilities that they have already in another town, and then they're possibly looking for a retail location.
Right.
So obviously that would take the electricity and the water demand way down. It would just be a matter of, providing a small building and adequate parking. To do assisted living, we were
Just one second.
Okay, okay.
So we've had some conversations, and we have one client that may work for us, like I said, they may do a retail facility, maybe a retail facility somewhere, and someone else, if they do a grow facility, they had also talked about taking a portion of it and doing some solar panels for electricity, or maybe cogeneration, to make carbon dioxide, which is used in that. So this is completely foreign to me.
Right.
I'm going to be upfront with you, I don't know anything about this business, but this property has been zoned by your town meeting, so we're actively looking at that, because if this is what you envision for this is, and if we can make this work, we'll.
By right, you've got to put these things in, you just gotta get a site plan approved.
Yeah.
Special permit, site plan, whatever, I got.
So we just wanted your feedback on what, we don't want to get down the road and you say, that's not what we envisioned. I don't know if you had thought about this, well, you must have thought about it, but we did not think about this.
I mean, retail in Berlin seemed less likely, given Hudson and Clinton's development of significant retail, and the traffic volume that, comes through this town compared to the sites that are in Clinton and Hudson. And you're gonna end up with another one in Hudson, so you're gonna end up with two in Hudson and multiples in Clinton. I think when people get serious about retail in Berlin, it seems less likely they'd look in that direction. The folks that we talk to that speak more specifically about grow facilities, it seems to be a more practical use in Berlin based on the scale that they try to operate on. And but again, it's hard to tell how late people can get to the table on this. Because one of the things that you read is that the state, by being very deliberate and slow in the process, that's resulted in those facilities that have gotten established to probably have a better likelihood of survival. Because it does seem as though there's going to be a lot of folks ultimately that think they want to dip their toe in this process.
Don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Right.
They're
We've seen
just-
that.
yeah.
We've seen that.
First thing.
And some of the ones that we've talked to
Yeah.
way back, you
People come
thought, thanks, but, come back when you've really got a plan.
Right.
They thought about it in the parking lot, came in and presented it.
Yeah.
Yeah, after they smoked a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's, we've got bylaws that provide for opportunity for this, and the town's voted on it on a couple of occasions, and, I think if someone wants to get serious and really put a proposal together, we'd look at it pretty seriously. In the assisted living, we've looked at that seriously. That was part of Riverbridge's package. We were hoping that this would come to fruition, and, there's no reason to believe we wouldn't be feeling positive about that. There's, what Senni said initially with Riverbridge was their advisors came in and said, oh, great spot. But then, your conversations with Solomon's and our conversations with other folks seem to indicate that west of 495 just wasn't habitable for this use in the last 5 years. Now, looking forward into the next 5, maybe.
When we're all ready for it.
The dynamics have changed, right? Yeah.
We're getting there one day at a time.
Yeah, so.
The original proposal was a continuing care retirement community with the 3 levels, not
Yeah.
just assisted living.
So when was the conversation with Solomon?
Salmons.
Salmons,
I'm
yeah,
sorry,
excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably, what, 3 years ago now at this point?
Yeah,
At least.
and then Beverly Rainville was managing the Beaumont facility,
Mhm.
and so she was familiar with what was going on with, anyway, the assisted living.
Whitney
part.
Living?
Whitney, yeah,
Yeah.
Whitney Place.
Yeah.
And so we were throwing questions at her about, are you finding it hard to fill beds? And she said, yeah. And so we're taking people that aren't necessarily here for the long haul. They're coming in for short-term stuff, just because we can't find the numbers that we need. And again, that was 3 years ago. So, at some point, you think it ought to jump over 495, and the demand ought to increase.
The shacks are here.
I don't know where facilities are being built around us right now. There was a period where they were bumping pretty quick, and that's probably why the oversupply was there and people weren't as interested, but.
Baby boomers are getting to the age,
Yeah.
well, within the next 10 years, probably going to be.
There's one that just
More
got
than-
built, they just finished it last year on Route 9. in
Going to
Shrewsbury.
Walnut Street.
Yeah, in Shrewsbury,
Yeah.
kind of like we old Shrewsbury Nursery.
Oh,
used
yeah.
to be.
Oh, yeah.
But on the
Yeah.
other corner, not Shrewsbury Nursery, but on the
Yeah,
same,
on the same.
on the other corner, they just have one they did there.
So, I thought people found that appealing during the Riverbridge proposal, and I
Mhm.
think a lot of people were concerned when it disappeared, because they thought it was a viable part of that whole project and made a lot
My
of
whole
sense.
neighborhood was thinking they could move right down to that.
Yeah.
Well, the over 55 and the assisted living, they do kind of, one feeds the other. Which one feeds which?
The ones that survive one place can make it to the other.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
They walk down the street.
In my development in Florida, they built a number, it's an over 55 community, they built a number of assisted living facilities within that development. So it's funny how the over 55 people, when they come to the table to buy, I ask them, why, you're still working, and
Yeah.
most of them are not still working, and I ask them, why did you move, why are you moving here? And 9 out of 10, it's because their kids are living within close, and they're tired of commuting to see their grandchildren, and they want to be close to their grandchildren. 9 out of 10, literally, it's that high on that. Now, this way, if you did another development here, the senior population, I'll call them the 90-plus, that go into these, they would move near their kids also, but their kids happen to be 65 years old. And they're still near their kids because, they want us to visit them. We visit my mom, visit my dad, and that's, so they still feed off each other. They all feed off each other. And even like the over 55s, people that move out of their single-family homes, they move into over 55, and then generally a younger family moves into that single-family home. This is what we're seeing within different neighborhoods. So if you provide housing, there's a lot of housing swapping going on.
And you were saying you're looking at kind of different levels of care.
Oh, that was the first one, Riverbridge.
No, Riverbridge was gonna be
It was
different.
a CCRC, Continuing Care Retirement Community. You go from the
Yeah, you go from
separate living,
semi-self-sufficient, you might need a
assisted
few.
living.
Yep. Yeah. And that was 100 beds.
But that was part of an overlay district.
Yeah.
This is not an overlay district. I don't know whether,
Or you
how
allowed
are we
I
zoned
think
for
it's-
that?
I think it's allowed for by special permit in limited.
Is it, did you look at?
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
100 patients.
So this is approval by the planning board then? Is that what you're saying?
Or is it?
CBA.
ZBA.
Oh, ZBA. Oh.
You gotta bring them a site, and they get a site plan approved. I guess a site
And
plan.
100 bed is the,
Isn't that the limit?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
says
but
up to
number
100, up to 100 patients, I think it says. It's 100 beds, 100 patients.
Or they sleep in double beds.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
sometime in private, I'll tell you some funny stories about those things.
It's not on tape.
Yeah.
Residential care facility for not more than 100 patients. And it's site plan approval and special permit in the limited business zone.
Through ZBA.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're all set.
And, all right,
You just got convinced the ZBA.
here's our site plan.
Bring us some water, we wash our hands of it.
And for the cannabis, is that through you folks? That's through ZBA as well?
Yeah.
Okay. What are we doing?
What was it?
Trying to get out as early as possible.
Well, I mean, you can have casual conversations with us a
Yeah,
lot
no,
easier than you
okay.
can with ZBA, so, you know,
Right.
it always, there's never any harm. And then, you know, go and talk to some of the others. The thing about the cannabis issue is the, you know, the host community issues, and I don't understand all those different levels of interaction. I mean, the fortunate thing for anybody coming to town with an issue as complex as cannabis right now is that the town administrator starts next week, and that gives anybody someone to talk to negotiate how to work through with different boards and with the selectmen, because, I mean, it's gonna be a much more important role for the selectmen in a cannabis-related issue than it is for these other boards, so we're lucky that way. I mean, everybody's lucky. It's gonna be easier for any proponent, and it's gonna be easier for the town, so
Mhm.
we feel good about that.
Excellent.
So if we found a company or a tenant or something that thought they could do retail here and grow facility, because you do, I mean, I know the other towns have their facilities. I look at these things like liquor stores. And so, you know, you say, I know there's 17 of them, but, you know, are we too late? Well, how many liquor stores do we have?
Right.
Exactly.
Probably got thousands, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're new to the table on a lot of this stuff, so
I think
that's
we
where
are,
I
yeah.
think,
Yeah.
Well, the two that are in Hudson, I can't imagine they're going to survive with no parking.
Well, that's a big thing too, yeah,
It's
exactly.
as customer unfriendly as you can imagine,
Really?
people standing out in
yeah.
In the
the
rain.
sun and rain and, you know.
And we got plenty of acreage over here, it's flat as a pancake, it's all sand.
Yeah.
If we provide a facility here with 30 parking spaces,
That Wayland back.
What's that?
40 to 50.
50.
You're still not really in a
Right.
commercial, you're in a commercial location. It's
And, you know, it doesn't, it's not
residential.
highly visible in the downtown area, but it's got good access, the site has great access. So that's an item that I should say, it's a zone for it, or it's
Yeah.
allowed use.
It's an allowed use.
Yeah, a lot of use in the zone, so.
You can do private club or golf course.
Yeah, not in the golf course business either, I'm
Try to
not.
rain.
You got sand traps.
We got sand.
Sand trap.
Well, I think you could have canoe trips down the Assabet.
That's
There
right.
you go,
Okay.
Yeah, right.
as long as it's not motorized.
Yeah, canoe trips, that's it. Paddles.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right, good. Thank you
It
for your time.
was worth your time.
Yeah,
I-
absolutely.
definitely.
No, because we just want to
learn
make sure
something.
we want to make sure we're
Going
going the right direction.
the right direction. Thank you for your time again.
All right, thanks again. Good seeing you.
Okay, should-
They transferred him to Mass General, so he's getting some.
But see, there's your submittal.
Hey, check. I signed that and everything.
Yeah, there it is.
That's what I took my friend.
That would have been a big pile of cash.
Is to be submitted to the planning board at a regular meeting of the planning board, and then we start the clock. So, yeah, so it was sent to it was dropped off the town clerk.
Right.
But nothing's been done with it, because this is the first meeting of the planning board to see it, so.
What are we seeing?
Oh, this is West Street Crossing.
Okay.
We had it one time before, and it,
Yeah, we had the preliminary
It died
plan
out or
a number of
whatever.
months ago, and we submitted this, and then Ron and I spoke yesterday. I was just inquiring, is the process taking place, because I assume advertising for a public hearing, as well as peer review might take off. And Ron then called me back today and said, hey, why don't you stop by tonight in case we have any questions? So again, the whole submittal is here, the definitive
okay,
subdivision.
why
drainage.
don't you start the, I mean, bring us to history, where we were,
Well, we had presented to you, I don't know the timeframe, but we had presented to you, I believe it was last fall, the preliminary plan. And there were a few comments from different boards and departments. I know the fire department had chimed in. And we've taken all those into account. And the only real difference from the preliminary to now is that we did go from 6 lots down to 5 lots. That
Well,
does.
this is the one right beside the Northbrook on,
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
Right.
So this is off of West Street, right at the 5 corners there.
And if you recall, the history of what's happened here is that there was a railroad right-of-way that used to exist through here, and we came in here a year and a half ago with an A&R plan, because MBTA had agreed to sell this to my clients. And so we now own this, and what that did was open up land that was owned by this owner, as well as this owner, and made it all one contiguous piece. So again, we've gone through the...
Was that on the plan you showed us before or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the third time we've been here then, is we came with the railroad right-of-way, the A&R plan, so that we could actually purchase from the MBTA. And then we came before you with the preliminary plan and addressed your concerns there, and then with the definitive. So it is 5 lots. It's actually this lot 5 that became larger. There used to be a lot 5 and a lot 6 up here. And once we got all the definitive information in about soil testing as well as dealing with the drainage, it's probably just as well that we drop down to 5, because we were running out of space for...
We'll bring a second copy out so you guys over here can see what we're talking about.
I think we, I don't know, I can see it all right.
We got all this paper here, I mean,
Have
you
you?
know, we printed all this stuff up for you guys.
So there's not a great deal of difference between the preliminary and the definitive in terms of layout, except for the lot count.
did we get a peer review one last time? And how far
Yes,
did we get?
Scott
Scott.
had 3 or 4 comments. One of his comments, I do recall, was site distances, and we had that discussion about the fact that the embankment here as well as here are going to be cut back. And from this exit point, you will see all the way down to Derby Road. You'll see the intersection way down there, which is many hundreds of feet away. And you'll also see way up here, once that is cut. So the site distances open up quite well.
So you've been more than 7 months on the preliminary plan, you know, so that's just,
Right.
so now you're going right to a definitive plan. The preliminary plan
Yep.
is out the window, doesn't count anymore.
Well, the only thing the preliminary plan, that we've lost out on with the preliminary, by doing the preliminary, is, let's say that zoning changed and it now requires an 80-foot right-of-way.
Yeah.
I have no zoning protection against that change, and there's been no changes. So we're not in a position where it changes the
Doesn't hurt
factors.
you any. It's just that we'll start over from scratch. I mean, we're gonna get the peer review on this, like, the first one never happened, but
You didn't change anything.
We
You
didn't change
incorporated
anything.
and
Yeah,
stuff,
right.
So it should be you.
should be.
Almost,
But this has gotta stand by itself. You can't
right.
bank on what was done.
It's not gonna, I mean, all the stuff exists the same. So lot one is that type of configuration?
Yes?
Do you know where you're gonna site a house on that lot?
Yeah, it's going to go right in here. Yeah. Now let me turn to the other sheet here, which might give you a better indication. Tim, I just look to sheet 4 of 7 down in the right corner, 4 of 7. And so you can see the house layout, the driveways. So as you drive in, you'll see a house on your right, second house on your right, and one on the left. And then at the cul-de-sac, there'll be 2 out back with sizable lots.
You got a copy, David? You wanna see a copy while you?
Sure.
David?
Sure. I do recall one of the fire department comments was in regard to fire protection. We had all conceded that it was going to be a sprinkled, the house would be sprinkled.
Thank you.
One of the things that we had a discussion with the preliminary plan is we had asked for a waiver to the 10% maximum slope. And in your approval letter of the preliminary plan, you reserved judgment or reserved a decision on that until you see exactly how it came out. The reason we were wanting that is because there is a substantial climb right up through here, mostly through the old railroad right-of-way. And what results is if we had maintained a 10% slope, when we hit that high point, and this is the existing grade, when we hit that high point, it was a 8 to 10 foot cut, which just seemed ridiculous to be cutting through a valley. And so what we ended up with was a maximum of 13%, which reduced that cut down to about 7 feet, I believe. And then that was then feathered out and graded, so it'll look like the front yards of those 2 houses that would be in close proximity would slope upward from the road. That 13% also is only for a very short distance. We're in what they call a vertical curve.
Vertical curve.
Meaning that it's going from 3% and continually gets a little steeper until finally we're at 13. And as soon as we get into that 13%, I believe it's a 50-foot gap of 13. So out of a 500-foot long road, we've only got about 50 feet of 13% before all of a sudden it becomes gradual again and ends up at a 3% slope up in the cul-de-sac.
Give you a little speed in the winter.
And I want to say something, that a lot of towns have different maximum slopes. I will never forget a project I worked on about 10 years ago in another town where they wanted 10% maximum on a driveway. And they were appalled that we were about 10.5, 11%. So we had to change all sorts of things. We brought it down to 10. The driveway was actually built, and it's the most comfortable gradual driveway up the hillside. So a lot of people get 10% in their mind as something extreme, and it's not extreme. So that was one development. So that was one
We have
development.
10%.
Especially when it's
Correct.
shut
Correct.
down and
Yeah.
cut.
Well, the new development up there.
Oh,
Yes.
10%.
Is the rail bed cut into ledge already?
The rail bed, you go back to page sheet 4, the rail bed has an extreme cut right in through here. It's mostly at grade right here. You can see the grading is, you can see a flat spot there, but it's very gradual through here. And then all of a sudden, the contours, you're in a valley coming right through here. and that area is proposed to be filled. So that big cut that's out there will go away. So you've been on the property then, if you knew about
Yeah.
that.
I have a house right here in the back of it, it's all bedrock. The real bed's got like a 15-foot cut into it.
Yeah, that's about what's here.
It may not, oh, that's what there too. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got, there's a 315 on the top, and there's 302 at the bottom.
But the 5 or 6 feet you're cutting in to the real bed here is gonna be through ledge.
No, actually, we've got soil testing all through here, and it goes from ledge right there.
It says something
To
about how
beautiful
we take care of deviations.
sand gravel.
Oh, is it right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Every test hole you see here is all in sand.
Oh, that's
All
on my
2
list,
minute
too.
per inch soils.
Yeah.
So the septic systems are very small in comparison to some of the tougher sites in town. So that
There's
worked out
good
very
water up there too, 300 feet down.
well. Really? That's good. The driveways for each home laid out very nicely in terms of the grading, a couple of feet climb up to the driveway here. This is going downhill 2 or 3 feet. Climb up for both of these by about, I'm sorry, I've been saying 3, but they're 2-foot contours. So this comes up about 6 feet, but it's got quite a length there. So everything laid out together very well. We're catching all the drainage through a series of catch basins down to the detention basin down the bottom there, which is what we presented to you in the preliminary phase. And that worked out well also. Testing down there was all gravel too.
We go back to the.
This one's 100, this one's 176. Okay.
Yeah, we've got 100 to increase the area.
Right.
175 on cul-de-sac.
Correct, right.
So we've been through all the contents of the definitive subdivision. I believe everything is here.
Stop making so much noise.
Sorry.
I was just looking where it says we can do this. It says 10%, but I'm looking here, it says, they may be waived in the judgment of the planning board. It says action is in the public interest and not inconsistent with subdivision control law. So
And I think what I had described to you at the preliminary phase is that this would be a much larger earth-moving project, and is there really a valid reason for scraping everything up like that? So again, we're not here looking for any answers tonight, although I'm sure Jeff would love to have a final vote tonight, but I already prepared him that that's not the
You
case.
had the pen out for Chris, I mean, you
Yeah.
had to get the pen out of that.
So
no, we'll send this out to the other boards.
I also want to point out
Did you see the Board of Health on this? Have you presented?
we are required as part of the definitive package to submit 3 copies of the plan to them. I spoke with the agent, Bill Brookings, on Monday
Mhm.
and made sure that the board did receive it. He said that he'd be looking it over. He says he expects that the board would issue their typical letter of, we have no issues with this, and pending the receipt of final septic system plans. We did, based on, let me turn to the sheet here, based on the geometry of all this, you'd think with 5 lots and 20 acres that we wouldn't have problems fitting anything in. But the one thing we did notice from a Board of Health perspective is Berlin has a Board of Health regulation that I think well, I think even the board thinks it needs to go. They've been talking about changing their regulations for years, and that is when you have 2 minute per inch soils, you're required to keep the well 150 feet away. A couple of towns in the area adopted that a number of years ago. Every town except for Berlin has gotten rid of that. I like to use the word belts and suspenders. There's the state allows variance down to 50 feet. 100 is the accepted norm, and Berlin has 150. Well, because we've clustered our septic systems all around the known gravel soil that's here, what happened was we need to space those out because Berlin wants each system to be 100 feet away from each other or more. But then when I went to lay in the wells, I found out that a well like this needs to be far removed from any of the development site to satisfy the regulations. And I also found that they want us to be 50 feet off of any property line. So that deleted, I think there were 3 lots that became cumbersome. This lot here, and we're less than the 50 feet because Bill Brookings, the agent, mentioned they would much rather have us be varying a dimensional aspect to property lines than they would having a variance to the well versus septic system.
Yeah.
So that is less than 50 feet, that is less than 50 feet to the property line. And then this here is less than 150 feet to the septic systems because we're trying our best to honor the Conservation Commission's desire to have no work within the 200-foot riverfront zone. So that's why we've placed this here. If the Board of Health is not comfortable with that, we may end up pushing the well back here further and have to go and see the Conservation Commission, but that remains to be seen. Bill was quite optimistic that in a planned development versus just one lot, in a planned development where everything's laid out with a purpose, he felt that the board would be amenable to that, but of course he can't make promises either. So that's how that all laid out.
Okay. Shoot them out to everybody else. We get the Conservation Commission and
Right, you've got the required copies of the plan to go to the different departments, and then I assume you'll be sending things off to Scott Miller.
Do you have this electronically?
It's all been sent to Eloise.
Eloise, okay. Because Scott's asked me to start sending him stuff electronically
Yes.
instead of paper copies.
I did submit a whole package of supplementary information, which has also been sent electronically, which includes the drainage, as well as a few cover letters, just so everyone's up to date on everything we're doing. There's a cover letter to the Berlin Board of Health there, a summary statement to this board of all the things that we submitted, and the application itself.
But we got here stormwater management report.
Yes,
Is that what you-
that's what I'm pointing to, yes. So we're anxious to get going on this. I'm hoping that Scott can receive that quite soon, so as soon as he gets back to us, we'll make any changes if he feels anything's necessary or address them.
Coming here the next meeting on August 13th.
August 13th.
But I can contact Scott. Get him that stuff.
Great.
Okay, we contact Scott. We'll send this out to the other boards, and we'll ask them to get back here before August 13th.
Right.
And the-
I mean, he's already seen it, so it's just a matter of just checking to make sure,
Yeah.
spot checking to make sure stuff is the same.
And then the only other housekeeping detail I'm aware of is the advertisement that has to go in paper, and I think the planning board usually does
Yeah,
that.
well, we'll have to wait till we get everything back, then we get the...
Well, it has to be in the paper so many days prior to that August 13th
Oh,
hearing.
no, we're not gonna have a hearing on August 13th. We gotta get...
You just mentioned August 13th.
Well, that's when all the other boards have to get their comments into us and their yes and no's, and this has to be changed. And we wouldn't have a hearing until we get everything squared away within the town.
I thought that happened concurrently as the comments come back from the departments, and then when we meet on August 13th, we've got all the departments' comments back.
We get all the comments back, and then you would make whatever changes have to be made. If they come back and say, no, that's no good, this,
So you don't want to hold a public hearing?
no, until we have something that, this is what it's going to look like.
Okay.
We've got 90 days, right?
No, we got 35 days to get all the comments back, and then we got another, no, I think we got more than that, 135 days to
No, you did
approve it.
Did you do a preliminary plan? or-
They did.
Yeah, so that cuts it down to 90.
No.
Oh, no,
Preliminary
the
plan is
6th, we're
dead.
7 months out.
Preliminary plan is dead.
We exceeded the 7-month time frame,
All right, so you're
which
back to
resets our
35.
clock. So, and that's our fault, and, you know, if there's anything that you folks can do to accelerate that, that'd be appreciated very much.
Trouble is, we have so few meetings in the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's the problem.
One.
Well, we got August 13th, that's when we should everything in and everything should be squared.
And then we don't have another one until September.
And then we can schedule the hearing in September.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. It's summer, the likelihood of getting all the responses back from other boards is not always going to be as timely as we want, so.
But we could hold something in the first part of September.
September,
Yeah,
easy.
first meeting in
Yeah, I think,
September.
Well,
and I don't
they
think it's
have,
gonna, I don't think it's gonna take a lot of redrafting of anything, because like you said, Scott's already seen it, so I think it's gonna move along pretty quickly in September. So,
Is it the 9th? Or the 10th? Of September?
Tuesday nights, correct?
Yes.
September.
No,
The second one is the
The
10th.
The meeting's the 13th.
August 13th.
Yeah, 8:30.
That's 1 day short of when all the reviews are due. Right? There's 35 days.
Well, my position, and I'm not here to debate, Ron had mentioned that it takes a submittal at a meeting of the planning board, but I believe the subdivision rules in Berlin say that we can also submit to the town clerk, which is how we did this. Which is why I was a little curious about why I hadn't heard any comments or anything, because we did submit, I believe it was 3 or 4 weeks ago.
It does say that.
What's that?
You can submit it to the town clerk, I think.
Yeah, you submit it to the town clerk, but it's not officially starts the clock until it's submitted to that town.
That's what I don't agree with.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not debating, I don't have it in front of me to quote from, but I was under that impression.
I think I left my,
Well, again,
I
just,
left it home.
you know,
Yeah, we're anticipating cooperation from you, that you're not dragging your feet. And as we move forward, we're happy to move forward.
Oh, no, there it is, right here. I probably left it home. It's got so annoying.
You need an updated copy. Yours is 13 years old.
I don't think it's changed though. It's been reprinted and put a new date on
Perhaps.
it.
It's the first thing I always look at is the date. I've been burned before.
Yeah,
So I saw
like it.
yours is 2006.
Yeah. That's it. A definitive subdivision shall not be deemed to have been submitted unless it has been delivered to the planning board and the Board of Health at a scheduled meeting of each.
bang.
There's a comment in there about the town clerk as well.
Okay, yes, that's it about the town clerk. And back into the has been delivered, or has been delivered to the planning board and the Board of Health, care of the town clerk. Yeah, maybe. Well, town that has a planning board coming in and meets every day and comes to work every day and gets paid.
No, I think,
Oh, right.
yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna have that back by the next meeting.
Excellent.
We're asking we'll ask all the boards to bring it in by that meeting, so we have, and Scott too, so we'll have everything here. And
So even
If
it's
we get the,
4 days,
if we get
you can ask them for-
the rest of the comments we usually get by the town from the other boards, it's, if you don't submit a comment, we assume you approve. That may be the case.
It's kind of ambiguous.
Well, we appreciate that.
Tim, you've been quiet, any questions on your end?
No, like I think Tom said, you know, when Scott looked at it, we addressed a lot of the issues in terms of drainage and all that sort of stuff. So this isn't a complex one compared to some problem.
It's pretty clean.
If the rail trail goes down the rail bed, that's going to be mighty close to one of the
Okay, now where did you phone going?
The only thing that the railroad reserved for themselves is this easement right here.
Right.
That's just, this is tight.
That is.
In case you wanna put
I
a new
thought-
train track
I thought
in or
you
what?
might be referring to
No.
this spur. But you've got quite an impediment down here.
A gorge.
Sort of Rail
Yeah,
trail,
just
so
put
I
a
don't
rope-
see
rope
that
swing.
happening.
Put a rope swing.
I believe, isn't there a trail that does cross over to the other side? At some point, no?
No,
You
we're-
know better than I do. I
There
thought I had
actually,
heard that.
there actually is a better route though, that's in the back here,
Okay.
that hopefully will eventually choose that instead.
Sure. Well, Ron, thank you for calling us. to-
Yeah, I said, we just opened this up and did that here.
Yep,
We'll have different understanding.
sure.
Quick question, so just to refresh,
Yes.
you guys plan on future maybe turning this over to the town as a roadway?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just thinking something that the highway superintendent might ask that
Right.
I can help him with, because,
Sure. Yeah, it's intended to turn over to the town after full construction.
No, we don't hold
May I
everything. What happened to your
suggest
Form
that
C
you get a
and
name that
that?
everybody likes?
Right here?
it's already on there.
We,
All set.
You got the phone there?
Pollard Road, Pollard was
yeah, that was taken right from the list of historic names, and we actually settled on that.
and was approved, yep.
Okay, I'm happy.
So can you, I'm curious about the economics of 6 with one affordable versus 5 without.
You have a limit, it ends up being like a $250,000 house, you just can't build a house for that price.
Yeah.
That's the economics of it. It should be written differently that allows you to do that, because there's no reason why there shouldn't be an affordable house on this. But the limitations are so stringent, you can't do it.
What could you do? How should it be written, do you think?
I believe it was written more along, the problem is, it's written as a percentage of the median income for the whole state, or something like that. You know, or should be median income perhaps for the town,
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, it's not, that's not entirely true. What happens is that each part of the state is divided into subregions, and we're sort of Metro West, something or other, which is a fairly small. And then they look at the mean income in that, and then 80% of the mean is what's considered to be affordable. So if you were to live in Boylston,
Yeah.
you'd have a different figure than you would if you were in Berlin.
Right.
They are considered Worcester, we are considered Boston.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, but even then, it's not just Boston, there's smaller subdivisions within that. So they've tried to look at what actually is transpiring in terms of unit cost and making judgment based on that as to, you know, how to proceed, so that's.
But you went through the formula and it was
Yeah.
about 250.
Yeah.
And
No.
Jeff, what if this were, say, a 10-lot subdivision where there's potentially more lots?
Yeah.
Would that help offset the shortfall that you found with 6 lots?
Well,
Because
No,
we just went over the line
Yeah.
to trigger it. If we had clearly
Yeah,
moved over that
that
line.
would have helped, but I mean, by the time you get your percentage of the road, you get the septic system, you get, foundation and, and the well limitations.
But I guess the question is, if you could have built 10 units on
Yeah.
this parcel, you wouldn't have just jumped back to 5 and
Correct.
settled.
Correct.
You would have built the
Correct.
affordable unit
Correct.
and
I was
built
right on the
10.
cusp there.
Right, and that's the
And
problem.
that's
Right.
it, is we
Right.
just hit the 6.
Right.
Which made the worst possible scenario
Scenario.
to get that
Right.
affordable. Because I know you want the affordable, so.
Yeah.
I think it was just the geometry of this particular parcel yielding us 6 in the
Right.
preliminary phase that just didn't make it.
Yeah, I mean, you might look at a situation and say 20 acres, you ought to be able to carve out 8 lots, that's gonna give you 3 additional over the 5, there's a possibility of
Yeah.
then making something happen, but, the geometry of this is such that you've got a long parcel that
Exactly.
just,
Long and thin.
the longer you throw in that subdivision road to create frontage,
Yeah.
to try to get up, and then, like you say, you're dealing with septic systems and wells and setbacks and stuff, so, yeah.
And that's the other thing that the geometry of the property did to us, is made it difficult fitting in all the different offsets.
There was enough room to put that 6th house in there,
Yeah, I remember seeing that. yeah.
but it's just, you can't lose money doing it, so.
Yep.
So, but thank you very much. And anything you can do to help, we'd appreciate. We'll look forward to seeing you.
Okay, well,
On the
put you on the
13th.
schedule, 8 o'clock on the
And if there's anything
13th. August.
that triggers a question between now and then that we can help with, we'd be,
And you have no problem with calling us to reach out to you?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, he's done that many times.
Yes.
And
I-
as you get.
Usually he asks me, and I feel remiss if I haven't asked him.
Not a problem. And if you get comments back on the board, like highway, fire, police, just forward those on.
okay, you're gonna keep that copy there?
I can.
This number.
Everything fine, Ron?
Yeah, we just got on the Form C, says a filing fee of $50,000,
More than $50.
Right, the filing fee is 50, and then it goes on to say plus so many per lot, plus so many for everything
okay.
else. Yeah.
1,000 here and 100 there.
Yeah.
Right.
Per foot of this, of the
Yeah.
cul-de-sac.
Find the fees online anywhere?
Yeah, I think it was online. You
What was
actually,
the question?
where did we
Where
find
to
the fee schedule?
It was taped right to Eloise's wall, I took a picture.
There it is, there you go.
You should put it online, huh?
You said it wasn't on, I sent a copy, it's on the back page of the subdivision, but it's not
But not,
on
but
the copy. that's
the
on
electronic
the-
version of, when you
Did you
download,
listen to NPR tonight?
you don't get it.
No.
Yeah. You really want to put stuff on electronically?
Ransoming towns.
Practically shut down Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, the Christmas.
The bitcoins.
The ransom of this stuff is crazy.
That's what they were talking about.
Yeah, one of the Florida towns already paid $500,000 and they still haven't got their stuff back.
Yeah,
Well, then the city of Baltimore
right.
ran into that, and it was completely.
They were, that was talked about tonight, and Atlanta, I guess Atlanta really got messed up. Yet every department in the city.
All right, good night,
thank
folks.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How many copies we got? Yeah. Take the rubber bands off, because we're gonna have to separate them and do it.
I believe you asked for 8, and that's what was in there. The fire department has theirs, so they just took one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
And then you've got the booklets there too. Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
That works,
Have a good night.
that goes
Good
with,
night.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies, gentlemen.
What is that?
So, Walter, there's a, here, roll this thing up, the daily, which is, I'm gonna roll it backwards. New York Times should go the other way. They are, move on their podcast. The tool that they use, hackers use, is one that CIA was using to hack into foreign governments. And somebody leaked it, somehow it got leaked. So
Some of them are
hackers
literally
now
each
have
one
tools to break
will-
into older versions of Microsoft Windows, is what it is. So the town's done two overboard with the software. So I mean, that's kind of the message is, we should make sure every computer we've had a data on this.
You wanna put this in the middle of your roll too?
I think this,
Yeah, the paper clip, I guess, is about the side around there someplace. Organization, rubber bands, elastics, both defense and offensive satellite, that's really interesting.
You want me to go get you some, Ron?
I think probably rubber bands, we can
How
shut down
many?
a bunch of Russian power plants, but they can shut down.
7
hours.
maybe 8.
No. He's got his already rolled up.
Oh, he's got his already, so 7.
Start my arm with your lights, please.
I will.
Don't touch her up.
Might be driven by her, but some walls up last couple. Oh, yeah. We left at 2:30, first train came at 3 o'clock.
That's popular, of course. I was the first year that we did it.
Oh, really?
First year in 20 years.
So much work.
26 years.
Did you spend a lot of time getting ready every year?
Oh, yeah. So I didn't have that over my head, and then I ended up going through the 4th of July at my own house.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking about that. But so I can get started with some. And it's nice,
Stormwater management,
all this work we do, just go out there and place.
conservation, and highway.
Yeah, those would be the logical ones.
Anybody else, anything else needs to be?
No, we can keep a copy on our file.
Thank you, sir.
You're
His
most,
are neater than yours.
most welcome.
He is neater than mine.
What do they,
I'll be the first to
what do they
admit.
do with the
Chemo and radiation.
Well,
We're
that's
trying to get
just-
it,
That's
Is he still in hospital?
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks now.
Tape it in.
They was in
Once I
Marlboro trying to
scan
get the
it,
infection out.
becomes part of that record.
And then they transferred into Mass General.
Thank God.
Did you find that?
Just doing good. They were-
Can you turn your scanner?
I can turn my skin.
I find.
Call the rep 13.
Well, actually, this one's.
Yeah, I find 300's about right.
After I've been told twice I wasn't, and I didn't have
It
it.
was.
I mean,
And then they couldn't keep you there, they had to transfer you back to you.
Now, I didn't take it out of the book.
Because I had
I was
broken
gonna
bones.
separate it, so maybe now I should separate it, and then, I was thinking if I separate it, I can put it in a binder.
My very good friend.
Yeah, because I don't have a scanner, he's using one. I don't know what, was it that
She was
better?
a- she was
No,
Then I bought this one, just.
She had
It's a 300.
cancer operation.
It was that with the jitsu that
She was coming
you
back.
showed me.
Yeah.
That was much better than, much
She had
clearer
a
than the
problem.
morning.
But you know,
They sent her from
I've never even
300.
said, I don't know what
You
that
made
means.
it.
Thank you.
That thing is amazing.
And the second son down, she's going back to that.
It's great.
And
Reads the text and.
That's a pen.
the son pulled the plug on her.
Great.
Maybe it doesn't like my handwriting.
She was hoping.
Huh?
She traveled with them.
But had to get it.
She had season tickets to the Patriots. Her husband didn't like football, and she loved
We
it.
didn't vote on it. Ron, we didn't vote to accept the minutes today.
Yeah, but the Minuteman wasn't here.
But we all got them because he emailed it to us.
Yeah.
even though one was upside down. Did you stand on your head to read the third page?
I printed it out.
I turned the computer upside down.
Oh, I turned my head upside down.
I just turned
Oh,
the-
that's, I didn't think it turned the
Just took the
computer
screen.
upside down.
What do you do?
You know, I tried breaking that apart and
I'll put it on the
it
left.
would not let me do it. I get so frustrated, I'm like, screw it. But, yeah.
What are they talking about?
The scan, when I scan.
Huh?
Oh, she doesn't have email, she
It's
doesn't
upside
know.
down.
She doesn't have
I
email.
don't have your email. I
She was
emailed it to
sorry.
the rest of them.
Oh,
There was 3 pages that I scanned, on the second page, for whatever reason, flipped upside down, right? And I broke it apart, saved them as individual pieces.
but it went.
Flipped that one right side up, and as soon as I put them back together again, it flipped it back upside down again. And I just
What
couldn't,
software are you using?
Bluebeam.
In the back of that, you can select a page. and-
Yep, this one you can too. And I did that every
Resaved
time-
it.
Every time I went to save it, it would flip
Are we
it back
done?
around to its original. So I went through this, and I broke it apart, saved each one as individual.
Yeah.
Had it all
Any
set
other business
right.
that comes
As soon as I
before
put
the
it back
meeting,
in,
we just roll
and
the
put it in,
papers right
it
now.
flipped that one page back.
Are you gonna?
It was
I mean,
bizarre.
you're
I even
gonna
had
end the
something
meeting?
else in my office.
If, I,
said, what am I doing now?
talk
They're
about
like,
things.
good
Okay.
lord, you don't know. The only thing I thought of was just to print them back out, rescan them. Yeah, like, screw this, is not too, I'm not doing this, it's way too much work.
Well, no, I guess.
That wasted 35 minutes of my day trying to figure this out. So do we want to take a vote on the accepting the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes from our last meeting, whatever that may have been.
We got it.
June
Yeah, it was June
12th or
25th.
something.
25th? June 25th.
25th.
Did you meet?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did. Actually, you were
You
absent.
were-
I was
taking your
absent
brother,
big time,
right?
yeah.
We were absent for the first electronically posted meeting.
Okay, so what do we do now?
So, somebody made a motion.
Oh,
Somebody
seconded. Who was the second?
I have a couple items.
Any
Do it.
corrections? You got some corrections in the minutes?
Oh, we're talking about the minutes, yeah.
Yes, you have corrections in the minutes?
Aside from being upside down.
Anyone wants to accept the minutes? Say
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
No, thank you.
Yeah. We just have to read them and accept them. Somebody's gonna have to do all the work.
Why don't we get one of those,
I think we got another.
can't think of the name of it,
Well,
when you just talk and it takes all the stuff in.
let me see if we got.
Yeah, voice recognition.
Yeah.
Try
But
to.
I
want
mean, it's a
everything-
name, there's a name
Chief
to
of
it.
police.
Do you have it?
Dennis's doctor uses it all the
And I'll
time.
just put your name on it.
It's called dictation.
Transcription, dictation.
Huh?
Just have it called dictation.
But then everything you say is gonna be right.
Huh?
Then everything you say is gonna be published.
Even
the little comments. And some good, some bad, some in between.
That's the way my text messages go. I talk and then I go back. I said that.
Do you generate your text
Superintendent
messages
of
from
streets
speech?
gets one?
Yeah,
Let me make sure you do that.
but it doesn't understand me.
That's
Is that
autocorrect.
right? You know, when I use that, it's perfect. It's amazing, it's
Really?
just remarkable. Yeah, it's so good.
Well, actually, most of mine are good. I do it because it's just easier than trying to put my glasses on and punch.
Faster.
I can go back
Commission.
and make a couple of corrections
Superintendent of
where
Streets.
it's using the word that I don't
Yeah.
want.
But when you type in with two thumbs?
No.
You gotta get with the
Well,
program.
I have partial
She's not
paralysis
12.
in this hand.
Huh?
She's not
Fi's got his already.
Fire, highway, police.
I
conservation,
have partial
planning board,
paralysis in this
selectmen.
hand.
Selectmen,
So,
yeah, well, let's
here's
not
my
forget
right
the
hand
selectmen,
going.
right? Board of Health. Oh, he said he delivered to the Board of Health.
I
right?
did.
Yeah, okay, so that only then. Who gets it, Board of Health?
Board of Health, Select Board, Town Council, Con Committee, Police, Fire, Building Inspector, and
Town
Streets.
council?
Yep,
No.
that's what it says.
No.
That's what it says.
Preliminary hearings?
That's what it says.
That's what it
Oh,
says.
preliminary or this is?
But that's it, any
Definitive.
waivers, if we, that's sort of for waivers and,
No, it says.
no, it's right away on it, so.
we've ever sent the plan to town council.
Look what I got.
We've never done that.
Cheat sheet.
Huh? Geez.
Want one?
So the two that,
The two
Thank you.
extras?
yeah.
If we all reviewed it.
That's better than have
use
two
it.
lists.
That's
Review
true.
it.
Thank you for your help, Louise.
You want me to leave these back to my?
Who's that last one belong to?
That'd be a good idea.
You want me to get one to the assessors?
Make them into people your place.
Well, it just tells them that it's gonna happen.
That one there?
Although that has something that says comment to me on it, we put that letter in there. That'll be
Okay.
the comment.
Ron, where does that one belong to?
We'll throw it away.
What's that?
Who does that belong to?
No, we've got an extra one.
Well, you said
we
we
keep one.
could pay
Did we
eight.
keep one? Did we have one? Is one available for us?
There is.
Okay, perfect.
You take that, my little memo out, I want for the assessors, because I'm gonna do, I don't need them to give me any approval.
Assessors. Yeah, just put them on the list.
Thanks.
That's it. There we go.
Where the hell is the clock? There's no clock.
It's on the table.
It's taking a rest for the summer.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's probably just a matter of the
Oh,
bag.
Mr. Jim.
Oh, no. What time is it?
10 minutes to 9.
Oh, you got another rubber band there with me? Just the right number. Thank you.
That's right. Just hand it down.
Did you copy it out of the subdivision form?
We got the information from here, yeah, we made the diagram.
But we should be able to check it. By the subdivision.
Yeah.
I know we got a spot
Doesn't
on
mean I
all the
interpret
plans,
it
but we have one that has,
Confusing.
when we originally did West Street,
Preliminary? Yeah, I think there's one in there.
For example,
I don't put that with.
I don't know if it's in
you do a preliminary plan.
We'll
So
send
this
it
is
about
the Board of Health and the Planning Board respond to the plan.
Talking to business talk while he was with us. And he sent me, he says, oh, hi, Rich.
Oh, really?
The woman on the other end said, you better call me.
That's for that plus the
I'm gonna hang up.
Form A.
He said, I was
For the
talking to
assessors.
you. I was talking to Glenda.
You had the Form A.
Yeah, Form A.
This Form A.
Okay.
Stop. That goes to the assessors.
Did they get the phone?
What are we doing? What are you doing?
We got,
And then this is ours, that gets filed.
okay. Eloise takes that.
That's right.
Because he's gonna check on that tomorrow.
Correct. So I'll give that to her, and she can
We give that
hold
to
it until
Eloise.
she gets the check.
Right.
Yep. And I'll
Okay.
file this before I leave.
Who's gonna get these? Stormwater management?
Highway conservation, one for us, probably makes some
Highway
sense.
conservation, yeah. Just the right amount. Okay, you had,
Well, I was suggesting we could, if you want to look at this,
I like it.
it would be a way to get everybody on the same page and track where we are.
we got it?
I feel like I'm
I'm
back
actually
in
curious whether it's right.
early 70s doing
No,
phone
it
chats.
looks right.
So when you submit a preliminary plan, the planning board and board of health respond to the petitioner separately.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Wait a second, you get, first one has an A and R.
Well, there's three different things here. One is an A&R request.
Okay,
Second is a preliminary plan.
right.
And the third is a definitive plan.
That's the subdivisions, okay. But let me see.
You know, yeah.
Submit a preliminary plan, A and R request, and 21
Actually-
days.
What is it called when you submit an A&R request? Is that a preliminary plan?
Just an A&R.
Yeah, consider it
It should say A&R request, right?
You know
Or
what you
submission.
got? Oh, you wouldn't say, yeah, you wouldn't say submit preliminary plan, it'd just be submit A&R. Yep.
And if there's no response in 21 days, it's assumed to be approved.
Where does this notice go to?
Wait, so let's get that,
To the
every
applicant.
preliminary plan we've had, I guess
Say
we
that?
sent them back with them. We give them the comments right away. We've never, say, okay, come back in 21 days, we get 21 days to answer. We either say, this has to be changed, and come back with a redone plan, or we sign the A&R. So,
Are we talking A&R or?
I'm just talking about the A&R, that's, one thing.
But you were allowed 21 days.
Yeah, which means
Okay, we're allowed
if
one.
it's from the time the clerk receives it, and you're in a month where we only meet once,
They may not
Thank
even
you.
meet within 21 days.
it's approved,
Yeah.
because we haven't acted. But generally,
Most people will want
they
to work with
understand.
us.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we've asked proponents to go back and correct things.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we've said,
We
you
can't
want to
sign
clean
this.
this up
Yeah.
before you submit it to us. You know, it doesn't have what it, you don't want us to deny it. You're better off
Right.
cleaning it up than.
But as long as we do that within 21 days, it's not automatically approved.
Shouldn't it say 21 days except July and August?
Well,
It's
that's a
state law.
state law,
Oh, it is?
yeah.
So we keep working the way we're working once we're caught. I guess, there's the state law, and then there's the practicality of it all. That works good if you have full-time planners in the town, and full-time clerks.
I imagine
Except
it's a
that
lot
any-
easier for someone to go and record a plan that's actually signed, as
Yeah.
opposed to one that's approved
I
by
bet you they
default.
wouldn't find it,
Yeah,
I bet you they wouldn't sign, I bet you they
They
wouldn't
must
file it.
throw them out.
Yeah, I mean, it's
They would
just-
come back, tell you to go back, get
The-
the signatures.
The registry of deeds would say, what
Yeah,
do you want us
exactly.
to
What do you,
do?
exactly.
So they'd still be coming back to us, so,
Right.
you know.
So what you're saying, Ron, is that we wouldn't do a public hearing until after.
Wait a second, you
Oh,
finish with A&R?
Oh, wait, I'm not bothered.
If you finish with A&R, we would, okay. Now, subdivision. Public hearing notice to submit definitive plan. Oh, no, we get the, we'll have that, all that review done before we have a public hearing.
Yeah, that's what you're saying today. So,
I mean, it wouldn't make sense if we have a public hearing, that says, this is the way it is, and then all the boards can say, this has to be changed, that has to be changed, and
so
we would have to take action after, yeah.
So you got 35 days.
Yeah, this is 35 days.
Then
That
2
should be
weeks
just,
notice.
that should be a bullet right in there between those.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, yeah, that looks good. Maybe we just put that,
It's just it's one path, right?
yeah, okay.
And the hearing is.
One per chart.
If it was in the paper on a Monday, and the hearing was gonna be 2 weeks later, that wouldn't be time enough. It's gotta be, there's
2
language.
weeks, says it has to be, notice has to be up for 2 weeks, right?
Notice has gotta be up, so, I mean, that's why we're lucky we end up, we could put it on a Monday if we're gonna have a hearing on a Tuesday, 2 weeks later. And we've been using the item because it ends up being on a Friday, and that gives us even an extra couple of days. And then if something screws up, we can because they're affiliated with the Telegram, we might be able to say to them on a Friday, the hearing didn't show up. You guys screwed up. Put it in the Telegram on Monday, and that would still work for us. And they might have obliged, they might have in the old days, they've changed a lot now. Jackie Buck is gone.
Who?
I always dealt with Jackie Buck in the Clinton office of the item to place legal ads, and now it goes through Worcester, so I don't know.
Well, you get bills from Florida.
Yeah, bills from Florida, and you gotta
It's just-
talk to people in Florida
Yeah,
about,
it's-
paying.
Yeah, the bills come from Florida.
Yeah, it's,
For
Somebody's worked themselves a good deal over there.
well, they
Public
just.
hearing notice,
sold-
2 weeks.
sold- Made that, New York Times
We got
sold them.
public,
Well, it says that the
yeah, I'm
notice has to be posted twice.
2 weeks,
Yeah.
2 successive weeks, at least 14 days prior.
Minimum.
Yeah. public notice. Okay, publish it for 2 weeks, and then 14 days after the last publication, we have a public hearing. Or a minimum of 14 days.
And there's an appeal period, did you realize that?
Yes, that 14 days is a minimum of 14 days.
Minimum?
Yeah, minimum 14 days. Or maximum.
Yeah.
No, it's a maximum, isn't it?
Maximum. Oh.
No,
Minimum.
minimum. It's a minimum.
Yeah, so if we get on a Friday, we have it 2 weeks and
Yeah.
4 days.
Yeah, because these others are all maximums, right?
Yeah.
Not less than 14 days is how they put it. 2 successive weeks. The first to be not less than 14.
Oh, the first, not to be less than 14 days?
Yeah. So the first one can be within those 2 weeks.
The second one. doesn't
Yeah,
have to.
the second one, yeah.
Anything missing from here?
Hmm?
Is anything missing?
Notice is to the proponent, right, Eloise?
What was that?
The notice, the hearing, the notice goes to the proponent about there being no challenge to no appeal, right?
It goes to all the abutters too,
All the abutters, so notice all the abutters and the proponent.
because they can take it into court and challenge it.
Abutter.
And you get the abutters list from the assessors.
Yeah. proponent. Good,
Very good, Jay.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, if I find any other corrections.
That's good.
One thing I
Whip
noticed,
this out, find out what we're doing, we'll have to go thumbing through this each time.
well, it can get confusing, as I was just trying to keep up with what was going on, so I finally read it.
Well, when you find out, let us know completely.
The other thing I noticed, which is just kind of interesting, is the next select board meeting, they were discussing a waiver of 62A,
61.
61B, 61B. What is B? Is that recreational?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy Ayers sold to the solar, the POTUS solar people,
Oh, she sold her,
2 acres from her
okay.
property.
And so the,
So
lifting the
she's taking
62A is
that-
only on the 2A.
Those 2 acres out of her 61B.
Got it. Something that was kind of interesting about that, though, is her property is right alongside the property we were talking about tonight on West Street.
Right. Her name was right there on the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the property list is.
I was kind of wondering why they didn't buy some land from her.
What was the purpose of that 2-acre sale? I mean, why does the
I have no
solar
idea.
company want it?
All I
What's it
know
good
is
for?
that, I think she's getting like 65 or 68,000.
It's not like a easement or something, is it, for access?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I was looking, maybe they want to be able to get off West Street and go right.
Well, that's what I was thinking. They run the power lines down? No?
All their access is off of Randall Road.
Yeah. That's quite a project down there.
That's the notice.
Looked at it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I
Trees are
think all
gone.
the trees in the front.
Yeah,
what?
the 2 acres by Lucy.
In the front?
Yeah, when you're driving up Randall Road and you look across the fields, all the line of
Oh, yeah.
trees was cut down,
It's
Yeah.
gone.
which I was told was supposed to stay.
That's what I thought. Well, we said it had to be screened, we didn't say
Screened.
how.
Right. I don't know what the ZBA agreed to in terms
Oh,
of,
is that, they're in charge of that?
yeah, they do the site plan on that.
You'd think they would have left a tree buffer.
Yeah.
They didn't.
I think
They
it's gotta
say
be.
put in vegetation or put in trees, or trees, and they put in 12-inch trees.
Little Charlie Brown trees, you gotta remember that.
Well, it's just-
Yeah, that was a lot.
That happened across the street from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta call for caliper.
Yep,
signs
Caliper and height.
stuff.
I'm gonna do that next time.
Yeah,
And he sat right there and told us, oh, yeah, no problem. I'm gonna put in a nice tall one.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, you make them put a buffer.
You gotta put that in the
You
zoning.
gotta put it in the decision.
Right.
Yeah, but you gotta put it in the zoning bylaw, because the ZBA can only refer to what is in the zoning.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, they-
This was something that we controlled.
Yeah.
Our board controlled it. We dropped the ball. I dropped the ball.
I know, but
It was
if
your
you do
neighborhood,
it now
too.
and
Yes,
put
it
it
was.
in, then it's ready for whenever you have
No
another
access to
town
knowledge about
meeting.
the ball.
I hear it every single time we get together with the neighbors.
Huh?
I hear it every single time we get together with the neighbors.
Oh, okay, that's so point, I'm sorry. Well, even that guy down on River Road, that's solar, he was supposed to put in vegetation or shrubbery or landscaping
Me. Yeah,
with the grass. It's just grass there.
yeah. I'm gonna have Gillis throw some stuff in there.
But wasn't he supposed to do it? Wasn't that when he put that whole thing in?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll get Gillis, I'll sit and have Gillis and do it.
What else we got?
I think that's about it. Anything else to bring brought up before we close?
I've asked the selectmen for permission to talk to town council in regard to some common driveway questions that we have, and they were gonna decide tonight. I don't think there was gonna be any problem.
So the Sawyer Hill Road coming?
So can we shut this meeting down?
No, he's still reporting.
So that's what I have to report. I believe they'll say yes and go right ahead.
And then what's your plans after that? You're gonna go to town? What is this on common driveway?
Well, I think Margaret starts on Monday, so it might pay to bring her into the loop, because it's common driveway issues that have impacted a lot of different
Yeah.
departments and entities, so it's a bigger issue than just the planning board.
Oh, and it's just not one particular driveway you're talking about?
Well,
Well, this is one particular driveway, but I think we need to be
is this a Halloween ride?
Cautious.
cautious. Right, we need to understand.
We need what?
So I move that we adjourn.
Second it.
Wait a second, you can't.
Second
do
it.
yourself. You can't.
Look at this.
Everything's good. We're saving electricity.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a motion made to adjourn and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.